So I see one here. Do I use the same essay for every college? For most colleges, there are two essays that you have to write. There's kind of the big, common app college, common app personal essay, and that is seen by every college. So every college will see that one essay. That's the main essay. And then some schools will have what are called supplemental essays, where they're going to be particular to their, to that university or college. So an example of a supplemental essay might be, okay, why exactly do you want to attend this school? So obviously for that, you'll have to tailor that essay to explain, why you want to attend this school. Maybe it's because, you're interested in this major, or, being a part of this particular program. So that's a supplemental essay. But generally speaking, for your main personal essay, that is seen by all the colleges that you ultimately apply to. Next question. How much does the essay actually matter? It's a tough question. That's a tough question to answer. I mean, I think it very much depends on the school. Some schools, emphasize it more than others. I think generally speaking, smaller schools, let's say like a small liberal arts school, the essay will probably matter more than, let's say, a big state university, a school where they're reading, 40, 50,000 applications. And it also depends on, the program that you're applying to. I mean, if you're applying to a really, really selective program, a program that only admits, 10, 15% of its applicants, they might pay more attention. So it very much depends on, the type of school that you're applying to. But your essay, generally speaking, does matter. I mean, it really is an opportunity for colleges, to see who you are. And, it's really the only opportunity where you get to speak to them directly, besides your grades and test scores. So you should definitely do your best. Um, do you think the essay might be more important this year because of optional testing? Um, I think it can. I know that some schools are allowing students or have prompts that are specifically related to the pandemic in terms of, how has your world been different, over the past 6 months, given all that we're dealing with. So, I think it will matter, because as you point out, more and more schools are being test optional this year. So, yeah, I mean, to the extent that test schools are being test optional, I think the other aspects of your application become even more important. Next question. How do you find out, what info to include, in the why this college essay? So I think for that, that's usually in the supplemental essay. That's where you kind of need to do your homework. I mean, hopefully, you've had a chance to learn about the school, learn about the program. I know that, it's been really, really hard for people to visit schools, to travel given the pandemic, but hopefully you've done enough research to where you can identify the aspects of the college in terms of its academic program, its extracurricular offerings, the social scene, where you can say this school is a really good fit for me for these particular reasons. This is why I want to attend this school, because it has these programs in this location. I can see myself being involved in these clubs and activities. So I mean, you really want to be specific in terms of, I want to major in this, I want to ultimately study in this, I'd like to study abroad, and these are all things that your school has to offer. So I mean, you definitely want to be specific, and that comes from, from doing your research and, figuring out, what is available, what is offered at that particular school. Next questions. Do college admissions officers not like to read about trauma and growth? I think they want to read about growth. I mean, they want, to see that you are a mature person. So, I mean, if there's an obstacle you've had, if there's an opportunity for you to demonstrate, personal growth in some way, yes, that is definitely something that, they want to see. I think, in terms of trauma, I think it kind of depends. I mean, I think it's a little tricky. I mean, you want to be careful in terms of, if there is a really traumatic event that you've experienced, and whether or not it's appropriate. So I mean, I think I maybe get, a second opinion from someone, a grown up, an adult that you trust, if that is the direction that you want to go to. What's the difference between a personal statement and common app essays? From my experience, they're kind of, they're the same thing. I think the Common App essay, your personal statement. I think they're kind of one and the same. I think they're just maybe called different things. So I mean, your Common App essay, is the essay that, I mean, if you are applying through the Common App, is the essay that every school will see, and that's the main essay that they take a look at. And again, if there are supplemental essays, that are particular to that school in terms of why the school, that sort of thing, there'll be an additional supplement, for that essay. But I mean, personal statements, you know, that I think it's essentially the same thing. How do I find out what essays? Um, how do I find out what essays your college needs? So every college, has, if you go to the admissions page of their website, will give you more information in terms of what they need. They'll tell you. I mean, you should definitely be able to find out, if there are supplemental essays for that college or that particular program. Sometimes, if there's a particular program within the college that you're applying to, there might be an additional essay that's required for that. But you should find that out ahead of time. Next question: how do I make sure I don't sound like I'm bragging? Um, yeah, I mean, that certainly can be a problem. I mean, I think the best way to do that is to make sure that you're telling a story. I mean, you don't want your college essay to be, a resume where you're just listing your accomplishments. I mean, you definitely want, your essay to be in story form. So it has to be a good story. So I mean, I think if you were to focus on one event, I mean, and it can be something that you're good at. I mean, if you're a great musician, for example, I mean, you can write about, being really talented in music, without coming across as bragging. I mean, I think the key there is to demonstrate growth, to demonstrate maturity. I mean, I imagine, you weren't always good at music. I mean, perhaps you had to practice and work really hard at it, and maybe you write about that process. So I think if you tell a story, and one that demonstrates growth and progression, you'll avoid coming across as bragging. Next question: is sharing your personal obstacles a good idea? Yes, I think it can be. I mean, that is kind of one of the prompts that is provided to you. Describe an obstacle, or setback that you've had to overcome. So, I mean, I think it can work. I mean, to the extent that you demonstrate growth and maturity. If, for example, I don't know, if you have dyslexia and you had to overcome that. If you've had to over had to deal with some sort of family difficulty. I mean, if there's a way for you to demonstrate that, I had a personal obstacle, but ultimately I was able to, you know, overcome it, or have a better sense of who I am, and what I'm about as a person. That can certainly be a very powerful essay. Next question: how do we make our why statements unique? Not sure I understand what you mean by that. Um, so I imagine you're talking about, it seems like you're talking about the supplements in terms of, why this particular college. I mean, again, hopefully you've done your research. If you're writing about, why this particular school is a good fit for you. I mean, colleges want to see that you spent the time to learn about their schools. Yes, it's hard. That, I mean, I know most of you haven't been able to travel, and be on campus given the pandemic. But if you've done your homework, if you've spent some time on their website, if you've signed up for virtual tours, if you had info sessions, hopefully you've been able to learn about the college through other means. And there's something there that interests you, that fascinates you, that you think would be a good fit. I mean, I think one way to think about it is to consider it like a lock and key scenario, where this is who you are as a person, in terms of this is what you bring to the table, and this is what is offered at the particular school, and you explain why those two things mesh together in terms of I'm really good at chemistry and your chemistry department is really fantastic. I've seen that you guys, are working on this type of molecule and I've been fascinated by this type of molecule. You guys do this type of research and I'm really interested in this. So you definitely want to, explain who you are and why, and why you are a good fit for that particular school based on, their offerings and, all the things that, that make them unique.
Jermaine, there were a couple other questions that I think the slide just didn't update. So you're such a good resource. Do you mind if I just ask them to you? Because I want to make sure the kids get the answer. Cool.
Go ahead.
So let's see. The first one that I had put on here was, how does the coalition essay differ from the Common App essay? You mentioned the coalition application. Can you talk a little more about that?
It's virtually, same thing. I think the only difference with the coalition essay is the fact that I think, the word count is even smaller. I think it's 550. So you have less room to get your point across. So it's 550 words, but again, pretty much open-ended, open-ended questions, and where, you really have the chance to write about whatever you want. I know for, students that are applying to the University of California schools, they have their own set of, they have their own application that's unique to all those schools. And there's specific, there you have to answer, I believe, I think they give you maybe 10 questions and you have to answer, 2 or 3. So that format is a little bit different. So there I think you have to be much, there you really are kind of responding to a particular question that they pose to you if you are applying to one of those schools. But for the coalition, it's essentially the same thing. I think that the word count is just a little bit smaller.
Cool. Another one, I have 3 more. When should students have a final draft done? And I assume that question means when is the latest that I can have a final draft done that you recommend?
Well, you can submit it up until the deadline, but that's kind of really cutting it close. I feel like you definitely want to have it done to the point where you can get feedback, to the point where you can make edits. One thing I will say is that, it's very rare to have an amazing essay right off the bat. To me, the best essays are the ones where you tinker. You kind of have to, make additions and edits. Rarely do I see an essay that is just really dynamite, that's been done in, a weekend. Chances are, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board. You're going to have to tinker and, make some adjustments. So I think if you give yourself time, to do that, you'll be in better shape. And I think one thing that's really important is the fact that don't think it has to be the best thing since sliced bread. I think a lot of times, kids, procrastinate because they feel like it has to be absolutely perfect. Remember, 80% of the essays that, the woman I was speaking to you about who works in the college admissions office said are just okay. 10% of them are amazing and then 10% of them aren't so good. So, obviously everyone wants to be in that 10% category of the amazing essays, but sometimes, the perfect can be the enemy of the good. So, if it's just good, if it's just solid, that's fine. And I think, what oftentimes happens is, if you do a good essay, and you do it with enough time, you can make it to where it's really, really good if you give yourself enough time. I think a common thing that I see is, kids show me essays at the very last minute, a day or 2 before the deadline and it has the potential to be, one of those 10% amazing essays, but, because it's been started and written so late, they don't have the time to do the edits and the corrections. So, just get it down. And if you give yourself enough time, you will be able to tinker and, go back and make edits and get feedback to where it can be one of those great essays. The key is to start early, get the idea down and just tinker and improve and make corrections. And I think if you give yourself enough time, it can be one of those amazing 10% essays.
Yeah. So start now. Watch Umbrella Academy tomorrow. After this, after this is when you can start your essay. Everybody just make a little note. Let's see what I have. I think I have 2 more questions. Kind of to your last point, actually, is it true that admissions officers only read the introduction, and if it's not great, they don't read anymore after that?
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I mean, I can't speak for every college out there, but you know, so that they can read it, you know, so that they can, you know, this gives them a chance to read it. So I don't think that's true. I think they try to read the whole essay. You know, they really want to get a sense of who you are and, you know, what type of person you're potentially bringing to their school. So I would not dismiss this assignment. It's an important assignment. I mean, yes, you know, there are other parts of your application, your grades, your scores, your activities, your extracurricular, you know, activities and things like that. But you know, your college essay can make a difference. I mean, you know, you know, there are instances where, you know, students that I've worked with in the past is like, huh, you know, I thought you were going to get into that school. And, you know, and then I realized, oh yeah, your essay wasn't that great. So it can make a difference. You know, so I would certainly do your best.
Good. So another vote for working on your essay and watching Umbrella Academy later. Got it. Last question.
One final thing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, last question is, can you change the essay after you've submitted it? That one should be an easy one for you.
No, unfortunately not. You know, you get one shot. You know, you get one shot to do it. After you hit submit, it's you got to let it go. Don't read your essay after you submit it. That's when you find, you know, that's when you find that, you know, that typo. And I mean, you know, if it's one typo, you know, if it's a not an, it's, you know, they'll forgive you for that, but you'll drive yourself crazy. So once you submit it, let it go. One final thing I'll say in terms of brainstorming, I'm a big fan of journaling. I imagine, it's, you know, if you're having a hard time brainstorming, I'd keep a journal, and you know, just, you know, spend a few minutes a day just journaling. If that's, you know, not something you want to do, you know, look at your social media feed. You know, what excites you? You know, what do you? I mean, are there patterns in terms of what you're posting on Twitter or Facebook? I mean, you know, in terms of, okay, what do I like? You know, what interests me? You know, what gets me happy? What gets me? You know, what am I opinionated about? So maybe looking through your feed and you know and seeing, you know, what's, you know, what excites you. You know, that sort of thing, you know, might be a good way for you to brainstorm if you are having trouble, you know, coming up with an idea.